The day after my fiancé, Ethan Davenport, publicly left me at our engagement party, I boarded a plane to Shanghai. He was probably comforting his new girlfriend at that moment, telling her, Amelia Hayes has been spoiled since she was a child. She'll come back on her own after throwing a tantrum for a couple of days. You don't need to blame yourself. My friends were all worried that I would cling to Ethan and cause another scene. What they didn't know was that I had already accepted someone else's proposal. This flight to Shanghai was for my own wedding. As my wedding day drew closer, I systematically packed up every single gift Ethan had ever given me over the years and sent them back to him. I didn't miss a single item, not even the promise necklace I once treasured more than anything. From that moment on, we were like a river split in two, destined to flow in different directions forever. The memory of Ethan walking out of our engagement party still burns with a fresh sense of shame. The grand banquet hall was filled to capacity, yet a heavy silence had fallen over the room. The air was so thick, you could hear every nervous breath. After what felt like an eternity, Clara Vance, the woman he was holding onto so tightly, spoke in a cautious whisper. Ethan, don't be like this. Amelia is still young. She's not even 26, is she? A scornful laugh echoed from a corner of the room, and the murmurs that followed only made the atmosphere more suffocating. I stubbornly clutched the sleeve of Ethan's suit, my mind refusing to accept what was happening right in front of me. But when I finally looked up at him, my eyes were already brimming with tears. Amelia, why are you making me say it so bluntly? Ethan set his champagne flute down and slowly stood up, his voice cold. How many times do I have to tell you? We were just an arranged marriage between our families. I don't love you, and I never will. Tears streamed down my face as I choked out a reply. Then why didn't you let me date anyone else? Because you are my fiancé in name, he said, his tone sharp. If you got involved in some messy scandal, you would disgrace both the Hayes and the Davenport families. Then why did you kiss me on the night of my graduation? I pressed, my voice trembling. A flicker of irritation crossed Ethan's face. You were drunk and you were the one who insisted on getting closer. I let out a sudden, hollow laugh, though the tears wouldn't stop falling. But all these years, besides me, there's never been another woman by your side. Do you really not have any feelings for me at all? That's because I hadn't met a woman I truly loved yet, Ethan said, then wrapped his arm protectively around Clara's shoulder. I'm saying this for the last time, so listen carefully. The one I love is Clara, and I am going to marry her. All your old tricks won't work this time. Clara snuggled into his embrace as he lowered his head and kissed her passionately. She wrapped her arms around his neck, responding with equal fervor. At my own engagement party, he was intimately involved with another woman, right in front of everyone. In that moment, the memory of our kiss on my graduation night, the same tenderness, the same passion, shattered. It had kept me trapped in a beautiful dream for 4 years, foolishly believing I held a special place in his heart. After that night, Ethan moved out of the old Davenport family home and into a luxury riverside mansion with Clara. He made sure our mutual friends didn't tell me, likely afraid I would show up and cause a scene. This time, I didn't. There was no chasing him down at his office building, no tearful confrontations. There was only a profound bitterness that rose in my chest, a feeling I forced myself to push away. A few evenings later, I was having dinner with some friends when I ran into Clara while settling the bill. Amelia, she said with a bright, false smile. Ethan is here too. Would you like to come say hello? I managed a polite smile and shook my head. Sorry, I already have plans. I won't be joining you. Clara's eyes immediately filled with tears. Amelia, I know my family background isn't as prestigious as yours, but could you please stop bad-mouthing me in front of the elders all the time? I stared at her, completely bewildered. Miss Vance, I have never once spoken about you to anyone. I understand, Clara said, her voice choked with manufactured emotion. You're Ethan's childhood fiancé, and you've always loved him deeply. It's normal to have trouble accepting our relationship, but Amelia, as women, shouldn't we learn to let go? I've always been a direct person, never one for games. Her words were so baffling that before I could even formulate a proper response, she suddenly went limp and collapsed to her knees in front of me. Amelia, I'm really begging you. Startled, I instinctively reached out to help her up, but before my hand could touch her, she dramatically fell backward. Amelia, what are you doing? Ethan's furious voice boomed from behind me. A powerful force shoved me violently, and my arm slammed hard against a decorative iron railing. A wave of excruciating pain shot through my entire body. Ethan, listen to me, I pleaded. This is a misunderstanding. You still dare to make excuses? He snarled, pulling a sobbing Clara into his arms. He glared at me, his eyes sharp enough to cut. Amelia, apologize to her, right now. Clara trembled in his arms, tears silently streaming down her face, the very picture of a wronged victim. My arm was already turning a dark shade of purple, the bruise spreading visibly beneath my skin. But Ethan didn't even glance at it. He looked at me as if I were a monster. A bitter smile touched my lips, and I gave up trying to explain. I'm sorry, I said, my voice flat. Ethan seemed to freeze for a second, but then his gaze grew even harder. Not sincere enough. I straightened my back, took a deep breath, and bowed low. Is this better? Clara glanced at me, the corners of her lips curling into a fleeting, triumphant smirk before she turned back to Ethan, sobbing. Forget it, Ethan. How could I possibly accept an apology like this? His expression instantly softened as he looked at her. Amelia, he said, turning his cold gaze back to me. I told you long ago that Clara is different from the others. Bullying her like this only makes me despise you more, and it makes me cherish her even more. He wrapped his arm around Clara and walked away without a backward glance. I stood there alone, the throbbing in my arm a constant, sharp reminder of what had just happened. Yet my heart was strangely calm. In that moment, I finally understood. All my youthful fantasies had burst like bubbles, vanishing without a trace. That night, Ethan posted a series of updates on his social media, all featuring Clara. Friends from our circle immediately sent me the screenshots with his captions highlighted. I knew what they were doing. In the past, this was my cue to impulsively run to Ethan and make a scene. He would always get annoyed, but he would eventually give in, which led me to mistakenly believe he cared. It made me unable to see when enough was enough. This time, however, I chose silence. Instead, I dialed a number that had gone unanswered for a week. Mr. Sterling, this is Amelia. I've thought about what you mentioned last time. When I was 13, my parents died in an accident. Because of my family's deep friendship with the Davenports, I moved in with them. But there was another family friend, Aunt Julia, who had been my mother's closest confidant. She had moved far away for love years ago, and by the time she settled in Shanghai and reconnected, my parents were already gone. Aunt Julia wanted me to come live with her. She also wanted to fulfill a promise she and my mother had made in their youth, for me to marry her son, Julian Sterling. A week ago, when she first proposed the idea, I couldn't agree, but I couldn't bring myself to refuse her kindness either, so I simply asked for time. But tonight, standing in the aftermath of that humiliating encounter, I finally saw the delusion I had been clinging to for years. One-sided affection was a joke. I didn't want to be the subject of gossip anymore. Half a year ago, when Ethan first tried to break off our engagement, I had refused and made a fool of myself with tearful scenes. Looking back, maybe this was for the best. On the other end of the line, Aunt Julia's voice was bright with happiness. Amelia, Julian has been waiting for your answer. He's about to fly to North Capitol to propose to you. Holding the phone, I felt my cheeks grow warm, but the joyful laughter on the other end left a strange emptiness inside me. 10 years of a crush, and it only took 7 days to finally let go. Ethan and Clara chose to hold their official engagement ceremony on the day I left for Shanghai, so almost no one came to see me off. After the plane landed, I turned my phone on, and it buzzed incessantly with notifications about their party. I smiled to myself and blocked them all. I had met Julian Sterling once before, years ago, and I didn't want to make a big spectacle of our arrangement. He understood completely. He proposed, we exchanged rings, and just like that, we were engaged. My bank account received a transfer of $100 million, and a simple, elegant diamond ring now sat on my finger. As I was about to get into the Sterling family car, my phone rang. It was Ethan's cousin, Chloe Davenport. Amelia, the engagement ceremony is about to start. Where are you? You just got to Shanghai. Hurry back, there's still time. What would I go back for? I asked calmly. Chloe was momentarily stunned. Are you planning something drastic? If you don't go back and raise hell, my brother is really going to become someone else's. Isn't this his big day? Why should I go make a scene? I replied. Amelia! Chloe's voice rose in disbelief. Have you lost your mind? Before I could hang up, the phone was snatched away and Clara's voice came through, sickly sweet. Amelia, aren't you coming to our engagement ceremony? Even though you were Ethan's former fiancée, he has always treated you like a younger sister. As his future sister-in-law, I hope to receive your blessings. I lifted my eyes and saw Julian in the distance. He was leaning against a luxury car, his gaze gentle and patient. A sense of peace settled over me. Great, I said into the phone, my voice steady. May you grow old together and remain united in heart forever. Ethan was on the terrace with a few friends, a drink in his hand. His eyes kept drifting towards Chloe's group. He knew them. They were reporting my every move to me, just as they always had whenever another woman got close to him. It was a pattern. I would hear the news, rush over, and create a scene. He hated the drama, and it was why he eventually cut ties with most of his female companions. He assumed this time would be no different. The fact that I had booked a flight that would land just as his party was starting seemed to him like a perfectly timed, dramatic entrance. Ethan, what if Amelia comes back to cause trouble? One of his friends asked. Yeah, she was your ex-fiancée. If she finds out you're with someone else for real this time, she'll definitely go crazy. But she's been really quiet lately, another friend observed. You publicly jilted her, and she didn't react at all. In the past, she would have been losing her mind by now. Ethan's wine glass paused midway to his lips. The last sentence echoed in his mind. I had been too quiet, unnervingly so. It was completely out of character. He had rejected me countless times over the years, and I had always bounced back, more determined than ever. He suddenly thought of something and chuckled, setting down his glass. Just wait. She's never been one to stay quiet for long. He was certain I would show up. Increase security, he told an assistant, glancing at his watch. Don't let any irrelevant people in to cause trouble. Just as he said that, Chloe came running up out of breath. Brother, Amelia is here. Her car just reached the main gate. An odd feeling stirred in Ethan's chest, quickly replaced by a dark annoyance. What a stubborn girl, he thought, still causing chaos. He walked out with a grim expression, the crowd following him. As he stepped onto the terrace, Clara, dressed in a stunning champagne-colored gown, called out to him. Her hair and makeup were perfect, but her eyes were anxious. I heard Amelia's back, she said, her voice trembling. I'm a little worried. Ethan, will we be able to complete our engagement ceremony today? Don't overthink it, he said, gently holding her shoulders. I'll go handle it right away. Gabriel, I'm scared, she whispered, grabbing his sleeve. I'm afraid you'll regret calling off the engagement with her. Don't worry, Clara, Chloe chimed in with a smug smile. My brother never had feelings for Amelia. She's just a spoiled rich girl. He's been fed up with her for years. Chloe had always resented me, jealous of the affection I received from her parents. Her greatest joy was watching me make a fool of myself. Ethan suddenly turned to his sister. Haven't you always been on good terms with her? How could I possibly be on good terms with her? Chloe scoffed, dropping the pretense. All that kindness was just to earn her trust so I could get her to do things that annoyed you. What a relief to not have to pretend anymore. She didn't notice the change in Ethan's expression. Brother, she continued, you stay here with your fiancé. I'll go deal with Amelia. I'll make sure she loses face, big time. How are you going to do that? Ethan asked, his voice low. Have security throw her out? Her parents' spirits would... Before she could reply, the crisp sound of a slap echoed through the air. Everyone froze. Brother, why did you hit me? Chloe cried, covering her face. She was once my fiancée in name, Ethan said, his expression terrifyingly dark. By humiliating her, you humiliate the Davenport family. Where is our dignity? Why are you speaking up for her now? Chloe sobbed. You were the one who couldn't stand her the most. Ethan fell silent. Was that true? He remembered when we were younger, when our relationship was at its closest. When I fell, he was the one who carried me to the hospital. When I was bullied, He was the one who stood up for me. He had actually enjoyed my dependence on him. When had it all changed? He became annoyed when I became possessive and forbade him from interacting with other girls. He had insisted on sending me away to study, hoping I would mature. He always planned to bring me back once I'd changed. How could he have truly let go? But my recent actions seemed to prove I hadn't changed at all. "Go touch up your makeup," he told Clara, his voice softening. "I'll sort this out. The ceremony will start on time." He walked towards the main gate, but no one was there. Only a familiar pink BMW was parked by the curb. Standing next to it was my best friend, Maya. Ethan's steps faltered. He remembered then that I had given that car to Maya before I left. Maya walked over to him, her expression cold, holding a red envelope. "She asked me to give this to you and Clara," she said bluntly. Ethan didn't take it. "There's one more thing," Maya continued. "Remember that ring she gave you on your birthday? It was a family heirloom from her grandmother. Amelia told me that ring was meant for her future husband. It's not appropriate for you to have it anymore. Could you please give it back to me?" Ethan looked down at the understated ring on his own finger. He had put it on that morning without thinking. Now, it felt like it was burning his skin. A gift for her future husband. An inexplicable restlessness surged through him at the thought of me spending my life with someone else. "Tell Amelia I never take back gifts," he said coolly. "If she insists, she can come discuss it with me in person." He turned to leave. "Mr. Davenport, wait!" Maya called out. "I'll have Amelia speak with you now." Maya's call came through as our car was pulling up to the Sterling estate. "Amelia," she said, frustration clear in her voice. "I asked Ethan for the ring, but he refused. He said if you want it, you have to come talk to him yourself." I couldn't help but glance at Julian, who was sitting beside me. I was still getting to know him. He was gentle and impeccably mannered, but he had a powerful, commanding presence that was impossible to ignore. He had just finished a work call, switching effortlessly between 3 languages. It made me feel childish and small. In front of him, I became inexplicably reserved. Before I could reply to Maya, the voice on the phone changed. It was Ethan. "Amelia, do you genuinely want this ring, or are you just trying to find an excuse to sabotage my engagement party?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "If you think I'm trying to sabotage your party, you're mistaken. I just want the ring back. It shouldn't be passed through other people's hands. Linux is my closest friend," I said. "Just give it to her." Ethan laughed, a cold, humorless sound. "Amelia, do I have to spell it out for you? Come and get it back the same way you gave it to me." He hung up. I was flooded with anger and embarrassment, my cheeks burning. He was referring to my graduation day, when I'd summoned all my courage and kissed him under a cherry blossom tree. Trembling, I had placed the ring in his palm and told him what it meant. He had accepted it, and I thought he had accepted my love along with it. The past few years felt like a long, terrible dream. I had assumed he would be eager to get rid of the last reminder of me. I never expected this. "Ran into some trouble?" Julian asked suddenly. I looked up and met his deep, knowing gaze. An indescribable embarrassment washed over me. I didn't want to hide things from him, but our relationship was still so new. "It's nothing," I said, shaking my head. "Just some trivial matters to deal with back home. I can handle it." Julian simply nodded. "All right. But Amelia, if you encounter anything you can't resolve, don't hesitate to ask. After all, you'll soon be my wife." He said it so naturally, but the word wife still made my ears burn. I gave him a soft murmur in response. When the car stopped in front of the Sterling villa, he got out first and came around to open my door. His hand was warm and steady as he helped me out, and then his fingers naturally intertwined with mine. The initial awkwardness faded, replaced by a comforting warmth. In the distance, Aunt Julia saw us walking hand in hand, and her face broke into a relieved smile. She rushed towards us and pulled me into a tight hug, tears streaming down her face. "Amelia, you look just like your mother did when she was young." The familiar scent of her perfume brought back hazy memories of my own mother, and my own tears began to fall. Julian stood by, shaking his head with a helpless smile. "Auntie," he said, handing her a handkerchief, "if you two keep crying like this, people will think we're bullying you." He reached out his hand to me. Amelia, we're going home. My wedding to Julian was scheduled for 2 weeks later. The Sterling family had been preparing for it for years, ever since a fortune teller told them Julian must marry by the age of 28 to ensure a safe and prosperous life. After our birth dates were found to be a perfect match, the entire family was overjoyed. I received many precious gifts, but the one that moved me most was his grandmother's heirloom jade necklace, which Julian personally placed around my neck. It made me feel even more guilty about my own family heirloom, the ring that was still in Ethan's possession. Noticing my low spirits one afternoon, Julian found me in the garden. Amelia, are you unhappy? He asked, his eyes filled with concern. Looking at the gentle man before me, a dam inside me broke. I hadn't cried when I was publicly jilted. I hadn't cried when I left the city I'd lived in for over 20 years. And I hadn't cried when Ethan refused to return my ring. But now, in the face of such simple kindness, I couldn't stop the tears. Julian, for all his grace and eloquence, was endearingly clumsy as he tried to wipe my tears away with a tissue. Joel, I said, laughing through my sobs, you're smudging my makeup. Are you wearing makeup? He asked earnestly. You've always looked this beautiful to me. His sweet talk worked. You're so good with words, I teased. You must have dated a lot of girls. He was quiet for a moment. I have, he finally said. It's just a shame she didn't like me. A pang of bitterness went through me, but I quickly consoled myself. We had both come to this marriage with our own pasts. As I was about to leave his family home that day, Julian said to me, Amelia, I hope you can truly see me as your future husband. You're outstanding and capable, but occasionally relying on me would make me very happy. His words opened up a part of my heart. My own wedding preparations began, though the Sterlings kept the bride's identity a secret. One of my first tasks was to deal with the gifts Ethan had given me. I had them all shipped from my old home. The limited edition gemstone necklace he put on me for my 15th birthday, once my most prized possession, now felt cold and meaningless. As I emptied the jewelry boxes one by one, my heart felt strangely light. Just as I was packing them to be couriered back to him, I got a call from the staff at the ranch where I kept my corgi. The dog was sick and listless. Miss Hayes, the staff member said, Mr. Davenport happens to be here. Let him speak with you. Ethan's deep voice came through the line. Amelia, when we got this dog, what did you promise? Have you forgotten? Of course I remember, I said coolly. You must take full responsibility for any pet you choose. Since when have you been so obedient? He scoffed. It seems you're not that attached to this dog after all. The unspoken words hung in the air. You're not that attached to me either. Are you planning to never return to this city for the rest of your life? He asked, his voice rising with anger. I let out a light laugh. It was a possibility. My future was in Shanghai now. Amelia, you're still so willful, he said, his tone growing colder. Don't make a decision you'll come to regret. I wish you and Clara happiness, Ethan, I said softly, and ended the call. I then called his father and, after some pleasantries, tactfully brought up the ring. His father was apologetic and promised to get it back for me, saying they were coming to Shanghai for a wedding in a few days and would bring it then. A few days later, Ethan was at a business party when he overheard my friend Maya on the phone, excitedly talking about flying to Shanghai the next day to be my maid of honor. He confronted her, his face pale and his eyes bloodshot, demanding to know if she was going to my wedding. Maya, seeing his state, felt a surge of satisfaction for all the years I had suffered. She didn't tell him the truth. You misheard, she lied smoothly. I'm going to Shanghai for a wedding, and Amelia will be there, but it's for a college classmate. Amelia doesn't have any close classmates in Shanghai, Ethan pressed. Maya sneered. Ethan, have you ever truly understood Amelia? You have no idea how precious she is. You will never be worthy of the sincerity she showed you. She walked away, leaving him with a dull ache in his chest. The next day, the large package of returned gifts arrived, delivered by a private plane Julian had arranged. Ethan's hands trembled as he opened it. Inside were all the memories. The first Cartier necklace, the sapphire bracelet, the Porsche key, and finally, the velvet box with the necklace he'd given me. He clutched it, tears streaming down his face, finally realizing the depth of what he had lost. He had been so certain I would never leave. The day my uncle returned the ring, I told him and his wife the news of my own marriage. They were shocked to learn that the mysterious, low-key wedding of the Sterling Group's president, the one they had come to Shanghai to attend, was mine. Auntie held my hand, tears of regret and happiness mixing. She told me Ethan had tried to break up with Clara, but then Clara announced she was pregnant, trapping him. But on my wedding day, my heart was full of a different man. The night before, Julian showed me a video on his phone. It was from a charity ball a year earlier. In the video, I was dancing gracefully, and in the background, Julian stood watching me, his gaze full of adoration. He was the one who had invited me to dance, but my heart had been so full of Ethan back then that I barely registered him. "Remember I told you I once had someone special in my heart?" He whispered, his face close to mine. "I've been waiting, Amelia. Waiting for the day you would give me a chance. The person I admire has always been you." My wedding day was perfect. Julian was devastatingly handsome, and the night that followed was a revelation. It was the first time I heard so many sweet nothings. The first time someone called me their baby in the gentlest tone, the first time I truly understood the wonders of being loved. A few days later, the housekeeper told me with a smile, "Madam, I've never seen Mr. Sterling so happy. He greets everyone, even the delivery man. I think he wants to tell the whole world he married the woman he loves." From the backyard, I saw Julian's car pull up. He handed his briefcase to the butler, and his eyes immediately found mine. I started waving and bouncing on my feet, and a wide grin spread across his face. He walked through the garden towards me, and I couldn't wait any longer. I ran to meet him, and he opened his arms wide, catching me in a tight embrace as I threw myself into them. Ethan only learned I was marrying Julian on the day of my wedding. When he saw the photos, me in my gown holding Julian's arm, his own parents laughing at the main table, Julian slipping the ring on my finger, the world around him went silent. A sharp pain shot through his chest. He finally confronted Clara, who admitted the pregnancy was a lie, a tool for extortion. The truth of her scheming, her greed, and her hypocrisy was laid bare. The day her family was arrested for trying to blackmail the Davenports, he laughed at his own foolishness. He drove his car onto the highway, accelerating until the world was a blur. He closed his eyes and let go of the wheel. The crash didn't kill him, but it broke him. In the hospital, listening to his parents' heartbroken sobs as something inside him finally grew up. He vowed to never live such an absurd life again. The old pink BMW was gone from the garage, replaced by my new life, a life where I was cherished and adored, a life that had only just begun.